it just goes on and on, and you're screaming inside your head.
Have any of you ever thought about suicide?
The thought entered our minds when we were there on that table and they were cutting into us with a pain that was beyond description. The first thought comes to your head, dear God, come and take me now because I can't deal with it.
A lawsuit in West Virginia is calling attention to a risk of surgery that is not often discussed. Patients who remain wide awake and paralyzed while doctors cut them open. It is excruciatingly painful, as you'd imagine. It's also more common than you might think.
Hello everyone, my name is Michelle, and today I am going to be talking about anesthesia awareness. So, extreme trigger warning.
What? Am I supposed to be asleep right now? Everyone ready to get started here? I can still hear you. Ready as I'll ever be. Wait, something's wrong.
Please let me know if you have ever experienced or heard of anything like this. Would you like more videos like this? Because my view count would definitely say you want more videos about my experience with PTSD and dissociative disorders, which is understandable because that's what you came here for, but just let me know. If you could please give this video a like, subscribe, and even turn on the bell if you want to, I would be so grateful. It is such a gift, every single subscriber that I get, like why? I hope this video is educational for you, and trigger warning 100%. Obviously for surgery, hospitals, just things that people who have trauma might not want to hear. I mean, it depends on the person. Like, a lot of people with trauma are like,
give it to me, I need more.
Make sure to comment below if you've ever heard of anesthesia awareness, especially if you've ever known anyone with anesthesia awareness. If you love weird, creepy stuff like I do, stay tuned. A rare complication of general amnesia where patients regain various levels of consciousness during their surgical procedures. While amnesia awareness is possible without any long-term memory, the more clinically significant complication is awareness with explicit recall, the events related to the surgery. So I've never had surgery before. That sounds mortifying. When you go into surgery, I'm assuming they go like, okay, the anesthesiologist takes the anesthesia and uses a concoction of different things to put that individual to sleep. What seems like an eternity of just pure torture. When a lot of people experience this, unfortunately, they make the decision not to tell anyone about it, which can really eat them up because they'll say like, oh no, that didn't happen, that was just a dream. The really scary thing about this is that you can hear, you can feel. When they inject this into the person, they'll go like count down from 10, the person will go 10, 9, 8. They won't be able to count to, 1 because they are already passed out. So people who are experiencing the anesthesia awareness are like, why am I still listening?
The only thing he could move were his eyes. He could move them left and right. However, they had taped his eyes shut, so he can't see anything.
In some types of anesthesia, people will kind of like go into a frenzy because they sort of get high. I think everyone is just strapped down because some people will get up and try to attack people. In one study that I found, I know there's a ton of studies out there, says that as many as 1 in 700 people can have it. I've seen studies that said that 0.3 can have it, so I'm not 100% sure, but it is actually a little bit more common than you might think.
And I remember them, strapping me down.
Caswell.
I was in trouble when I felt the cold iodine hit my belly, and they were scrubbing me off. So like at any second I was waiting to go out, I just all of a sudden just got stabbed in my stomach. It was just like rusted razor blades. It was just so bad.
That means if everyone in your high school basically went and got surgery, 4 people might get it, which is pretty good odds. A lot of the time, anesthesiologists will be correct when they think that a person is awake because the person will make like grunting noises or like make little twitches or body movements.
And so
this is a bummer, but I actually meant to say that a lot of the time people will grunt and make little jerks during surgery. So if people do this and they are under anesthesia awareness, a lot of the time people think that it's normal.
And then when Sherman woke up in recovery, he did not remember what had happened to him inside of the operating room, at least not consciously. Those horrible 16 minutes had been implanted on Sherman's subconscious. Basically, his body recognized that he had experienced extreme trauma. However, the amnesia drug wiped away the memory of how he received that trauma. So there's this big disconnect in his memory. And so when Sherman came to in the recovery room, he immediately sensed something was horribly, horribly wrong. He was scared, he was anxious, he had this incredible sense of dread, but he had no memory to tie these feelings to. And then, over the next couple of days, he began having these flashbacks. And so the idea was, by giving him this amnesia drug, he won't remember the trauma he had suffered through during the surgery, and so wouldn't file a lawsuit. And so after he was given this drug, the medical team, they went back to doing the surgery, they completed it, they got him back out to recovery, and then when Sherman woke up in recovery, he did not remember what had happened to him inside of the operating room, at least not consciously. Those horrible 16 minutes had been implanted on Sherman's subconscious. Basically, his body recognized that he had experienced extreme trauma. However, the amnesia drug wiped away the memory of how he received that trauma. So there's this big disconnect in his memory. And so when Sherman came to in the recovery room, he immediately sensed something was horribly, horribly wrong. He was scared, he was anxious, he had this incredible sense of dread, but he had no memory to tie these feelings to. And then, over the next couple of days, he began having these flashbacks. The whole situation had just become too terrible for Sherman, and so on February 2nd, just 2 weeks after he came out of that surgery, he would take his own life.
There's actually a movie that came out in 2007 called Awake, and it's really, really scary. I haven't seen it, but it's so scary because it's like...
What? Am I supposed to be asleep right now? Everyone ready to get started here? I can still hear you. It is I'll ever be. Wait, something's wrong.
Certain surgeries that people go through, like their heart stops kind of beating and the machine starts doing the manual heart beatings, and these people are like not even able to have a rush of their heart beating. Like they can't have any. There was actually an interview conducted between people, and it is so sad. They said that it was just excruciating pain, but every single one of them said that at one point in the surgery they were like, God, just take me. I don't want to live I can't.
Matt.
His mother shot this video in July 2020.
I know.
Caswell says he was scared and in pain after undergoing surgery for a hernia.
Now we're going to be following the story of Katrina Ossity, who is someone who was brave enough to express their experience online.
She says that she remembers a lot of it, but there's some most excruciating moments where her brain just blocked it out, which is basically like it couldn't take it. It was like, nah.
Most of this doesn't bother me anymore, but this part bothers me. I could feel like I did not want to be in that body anymore, and I could feel myself kind of float up out of it, and it's something that I feel like I've always done to some extent because I was in so much pain for so long, and I don't know if this makes sense to everyone. It's like I would hang out just outside of my body. Like, somewhere around here, I would just detach and switch that part of me off and just not feel anything. And I do remember very specifically during one of these events when all the machines started beeping and they started doing things to me and they started injecting me with extra stuff, I was pushing myself outside of my body, and I knew that
there was also one situation in which this happened to a man, except the hospital didn't want to get sued because of the trauma that this man would have, so they also gave him an anesthesia an actual anesthesia, so he would, like, a forgetting powder, so he'd forget that it ever happened. So when he woke up, he just knew that something horrible had happened to him. He didn't know what it was, but after 2 months of turmoil, he ended up ending his life because of it.
Moment with God. I'm not a believer of God, so don't be like thinking I'm a Christian activist. They explain how they have this moment with God where God is completely unjudgmental, that he's like, you know what, like, if you think that you need to come with me and just let go, that's okay, but if you want to fight through this, that's also an option, but it's going to be really hard.
It just goes on and on, and You're screaming inside your head.
Have any of you ever thought about suicide?
The thought entered our minds when we were there on that table and they were cutting into us with a pain that was beyond description. The first thought comes to your head, dear God, come and take me now because I can't deal with it.
By this point, Sherman wanted to die. He was no longer flicking his eyes left and right. He was just looking straight out, hoping someone would finally see him. And someone did. One of the nurses standing next to the surgeon looked up at Sherman's face and saw Sherman looking back, terrified at the nurse, at which point the nurse yelled out, "Stop, he's awake, he's awake!" And the surgeon practically faints. He looks over at the anesthesiologist.
Everyone who experiences situations like this, not just in anesthesia awareness, they talk about how it doesn't feel sad. Like, a lot of people would think that when you're going through that sort of option, life or death, you would be like so sad to die, but it felt more just like casual. She described how, you know what, if I could die right now, that would be great for me because everything would just be over with. If you watch her 30-minute long video, which if you are interested in learning more about this is very educational, in which she talks her experience with the PTSD, which correlates with my friends with dissociative disorders because it's like that level of PTSD. Please let me know if you have ever experienced or heard of anything like this.
Additionally, this is extremely different, but this is like the most relevant way you would be able to relate this to your own experience is when you have sleep paralysis. I've literally only had this one time, thank God. I know some people have it like once a fucking week or every day, but basically like I was half asleep from this dream. I was mostly asleep and I just couldn't move my body. It's a bizarre experience. It's really scary.
And would you like more videos like this? Because my view count would definitely say you want more videos about my experience with PTSD and dissociative disorders, which is understandable because that's what you came here for, but just let me know. If you could please give this video a like, subscribe, and even turn on the bell if you want to, I would be so grateful. It is such a gift, every single subscriber that I get, like why? Make sure to comment below if you've ever heard of anesthesia awareness, and especially if you've ever known anyone with anesthesia awareness. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.